Hi, morning, welcome to episode 98 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. I am coming to you from my apartment in New York, where I live with my husband, our 2 cats and our little baby girl, who is now almost 3 weeks old. It's crazy to think that she's been here for that long already. But welcome. Today is Tuesday the 14th of March. It's not my usual recording day, but things have been a bit hectic since the baby got here. I think it's been almost 4 weeks since I last filmed a proper podcast. I did a quick meet Layla, who's our baby girl, video last week, but that wasn't really a proper episode. But yeah, so hello to new and returning subscribers, welcome to new viewers, and those who are coming back. I think I already said that. I'm a little bit out of practice, so apologies for any additional ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff this week. Yeah, so that's that. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been participating in the Ravelry group, who's introduced themselves in the introductions thread and is just taking part in the general chat in the group. That's been really fun to keep up with. We do have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which is the Knitting Expat Podcast on Ravelry. You can find me online as Knitting Expat on Instagram and Mina Phillip on Ravelry. And I sell my designs on Ravelry as well as Knitting Expat Designs. All of that stuff should be linked below. The show notes are available at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. And yeah, so I will talk a little bit more about Layla and how she's doing and stuff like that at the end of the episode in the chatter section. So if you're not interested in all of that, you don't have to listen through that at the beginning. I also wanted to mention, what was I going to mention? Can't remember. Okay, it's not in my notes, so obviously I don't remember what it was, but if it comes back to me, I'll get back to it. But first up, we have a quick announcement. I do have a coupons code thread in the Ravelry group as well. I don't generally tend to announce the coupons on the podcast anymore, just because sometimes it just ends up taking too long. So you can check out the coupons thread there if you want to see what different makers are offering to viewers of the podcast. Moving on, I thought I would do a quick overview of my February stats, even though we're halfway through March. I haven't actually done that yet, so I thought I'd give that a go today. And here comes Hugo. He's up by the camera at the moment, so he may pop over for a proper introduction. Layla's sleeping at the moment, so I've got her monitor here, keep an eye on her. Hey, you come over, say hello. I think people will have missed you. See if he'll come over properly. But so my February stats, I finished 11 objects in February. 2 hats, 1 baby blanket, which is the crochet rainbow blanket I showed on the last episode, 1 cowl, 1 shawl, and 6 pairs of socks. So that was 11 pairs of finished socks so far this year up to the end of February. And that was a total meterage knit of 5,020 meters knit in the month of February. Okay. And that is a total of 20 skeins out of the stash, which was a pretty good going. I was pretty chuffed with that. Although I had 49 skeins come into my stash in February, which is a bit ridiculous. And none of it is stuff I've purchased, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, but I was sent some very generous gifts in the mail last month, and including one incredibly generous 2 packages actually from the same person from Turkey, which I'll show you some of the stuff that she sent me. But she sent a very, very generous package of goodies that she wanted me to try out. And like I said, I'll show you some of the things that she sent me. I won't show everything because it would take forever. But so that's why that number is so high this month, or last month. Okay, so with that, let's move on to finished objects. If I've forgotten anything or missed anything, I apologise in advance. Like I said, I'm a bit out of practice, but hopefully if I do forget anything, you'll let me know and I'll remember to tell you next time, or I'll put it in the show notes or something. Okay, so finished objects. So I'm just going to go in the order I have them written down on my list. This isn't in the order that they were finished. Okay, Hugo, you're going to have to settle and figure out what you want to do, because this situation isn't going to work the whole time if you're going to be like this. Okay? Okay? Alright. So first things first is a hat. And if you remember, I had started this hat, I'd gotten the ribbing done last time I showed it to you, and I knit the rest of it at the hospital whilst I was in labour with Layla. Actually, I didn't finish it in hospital, but I got to about 2 or 3 rows before the crown decreases during labour, and then finished it off once I got home. So this is a sport weight just beanie. It's loosely based on the sock head hat. I didn't use that pattern, but it's a similar sort of concept. So you can either wear it with the brim uncuffed and just have it slouchy at the back, or you can cuff the brim. I don't know, I can't really see how well I'm doing this in the camera, but you get the idea. You can cuff the brim and have it more of a fitted beanie, if that's what you prefer. Hey, Hugo's watching the snow. We were predicted a bit of a blizzard today, and whilst it's definitely snowing, I wouldn't really call it blizzard weather. It's not particularly heavy. It's windy, and it's definitely snowing, but it's not particularly, it's not what I would necessarily consider a blizzard, but what do I know? I lived in the desert for 5 years. So yeah, so that's that. It was knit out of Handmaiden Casbah. I think it was Handmaiden Casbah. I didn't actually write down the yarn for this one. In the vintage colourway, so it's an 80-10-10 superwash merino cashmere nylon. I really like how it's sort of spiral pulled up the hat. And so what I did was I cast on 120 stitches, I think, 112 stitches, and then I increased after the ribbing to 140 on US size 3, so 3.25 millimeters, and then I knit until I was done with the body, and then I just did some general, quite generic crown decreases, words failing, and finished it off at the top there. So that's that. It looks a bit like a hot air balloon or a light bulb at the moment, but it fits fine. So that was one thing I knit at the hospital. The other thing I knit on at the hospital was unintentional, but I had these with me at the time, were these socks. So this is a pair of vanilla socks knit out of Gnome Acres yarn in the Scruffy Gnome base, which is the tweed base, and this is in the Gnome Some Dove colourway. And yeah, and I knit these with and I did a garter stitch heel. You see that there. So I did my mini heel flap adjustment and German short row heel, but I just did it in garter, which is knit every row. So if you have the German short row pattern and you're interested in trying this out, you just knit every row. So the rows in the pattern that says to purl, you just knit instead. So it's just that simple. It doesn't require a separate pattern or anything. You just knit the pattern in garter instead of stockinette. And it gives a nice sort of squishy heel. These were knit on 2.25mm US ones. All the socks I'm going to show you today were knit on 2.25mm US ones. Majority will have been knit on high sharps. Some were knit on chagus. So just putting that out there now, because I'm going to forget to mention it for every pair of socks I show you. I'm just checking the notes for this one. Yeah, I think I said everything I wanted to say. So the morning that I went into hospital, the day that I went into hospital, I started the heels, did the heel turn, did the heel that morning, and then knit the rest of the foot over the course of the day, and finished off the toes just as I was, or in the early parts of labour, and then I was working on the hat for the rest of the time. I'll talk more about that later in the podcast, but just to let you know, this was basically all I knit on at the hospital. Pretty much labour was the only time I knit on anything. I only ended up knitting for about half of my labour, which I'll again explain why later. But and I didn't really get much knitting done after the baby was born, which is fine. I kind of expected that to happen. But I also knew that if I was going to be in labour, I'd probably be there for a while, and that's when I would need the knitting. So I'm just keeping an eye on Layla. She's still asleep, it's all good. Yeah, so that was that. Those are the hospital knitting things. I know I had a few questions about that. Then next up, I have I have 4 pairs of socks that I have knit as part of the New York sock collection. So I'm just going to show you all of those together quickly, because I don't want to show the designs too much, and I've already spoken about the yarns for the most part as well. Let me see if I can do this without showing too much. I think you can see those there. So these are the 4 pairs of socks. I'll try and show them to you one at a time really quickly. So this was out of Lolo Did It's. It's been blown out quite a bit because of the light. Come on. There we go. Lolo Did It's Dowager Countess colourway. And she also sent me some contrasting yarn for cuffs, heels and toes. So I did opposites on either sock. So one sock has a purple cuff and toe and a green heel, and the other one is the other way around, has green cuff and toe and a purple heel. So I thought that was quite fun. Then I have a pair out of Sweet Sparrow yarns, which is the lovely Julie, who has the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. And congratulations to Julie, she's going full-time as a yarn dyer, so that's amazing. Congratulations. Can't wait to see what she comes up with. And so yeah, really softly speckled. And then I have a pair of socks knit out of the Cozy Knitter and her New Horizons colourway. And these were really fun. These were so fun that I kind of got a little bit carried away on the self-striping and knit a really long leg. I'm trying to hold this down here so you don't see the pattern. Yeah, I kind of got a little bit carried away, so there's a really long leg on that pair of socks. They basically knit themselves. And the last one is out of Nomadic Yarns in her Spring Fling colourway. That'll focus, there we go. And this one, actually, the pattern, I really love this pattern. I think it would work for pretty much any pair of socks, any kind of yarn. It's beautifully textured, but also incredibly subtle. So it will work with pretty much anything. Crazy variegated, tonal, self-striping, speckles, anything. I think it would work really nicely. And again, this one I did a garter heel because I thought that would be quite fun. So those are the next 4 pairs of socks. Like I said, all of those were knit on 2.25mm and mostly on high highs. I think 1 or 2 pairs, one of those might have been knit on Chagis. And then I think I gave you all the colourway names as well. Oh, sorry, the Sweet Sparrow Knits yarn colourway was Garden Rose, and the Cozy Knitter colourway was New Horizons. I can't remember if I mentioned those or not. Then the next pair of socks are these bright green ones. This is my Pebble Socks pattern, and I knit these for Perry. This is out of Dragonfly Fibres in their Dragon sock base. It's 100% superwash merino. It's a really high twist, and this is in the Mossy Bank colourway. Really nice bright green. I picked this up at Vogue Knitting Live this year to knit Perry these socks because his last pair of Pebble socks, he accidentally felted them last year in December. They went in the dryer by mistake. So yeah, these are now finished. He's been asking if he can wear them. I said not until I've done a podcast, so that's why I'm doing this today, so he can get these socks. And so that's that. So that was, since the last time I have spoken to you, I finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pairs of socks. Not bad going. And the other pair of socks I want to show you is one that I finished last month, but obviously I couldn't show you at the time. But this was the first month's pattern release for the New York Sock Club, and these are the Grand Central socks. And this is knit out of Once Upon a Corgi yarn on her Marie Cutie base in the Oswald for Mayer colourway, which is a really fun colourway. The Marie Cutie base is a 75-25 superwash Corriedale and nylon yarn, and yeah, it's a really lovely texture. Sort of brings out the colours, and it just gives a nice sort of three-dimensional look to the sock pattern as well. So I've loved seeing everyone's progress on these, everyone's versions of these and different yarns that they're using. It's been really fun to see those pop up in the threads on Instagram, sorry, on Ravelry, and in photos on Instagram as well. So thank you so much to everyone who's taking part. I hope you enjoy it, and in a couple of weeks the next pattern will be out, which is really exciting. I'm hoping to be able to do a podcast either just before or just after the next pattern is released, so I can show you that sock as well. Then the last finished object I have to show you is again one that was finished back in February, but I never showed it on the podcast once because, well, the last time I podcast I believe it was still blocking. But the shawl is now currently being test knit. I think all my test knitters are almost finished with them. I think there's 1 or 2 still working on theirs, but it's almost done. And currently the name of the shawl is Spring Transitions, but I'm not entirely sure I'm going to stick with that. I think I might change it, but I'm planning on having this released next week. So this is what it looks like. You may have seen a picture of it on Instagram already if you follow me there. It starts at this end. It's knit on the bias, so you start with very few stitches cast on at this point, and you knit, get wider and wider as you go until you get to the other point, and you bind off along this long edge, this grey edge here. So the yarns I use for this, the grey is a Cascade Heritage sock yarn, pretty basic sock yarn, and the colour section is a mini skein set from Wonderland Yarns. In there, I think it was called Fuchsia to Turquoise, colour morph set. And yeah, it's a really fun, really big, nice. It's over 2 meters long along the top edge. I need to double check the measurements on this for the pattern, but it's pretty good sort of wraparound shawl. And you can wear it in so many different ways. You can wear it over the shoulder because it's quite deep enough. And the best thing about this pattern is you can either follow the pattern exactly as written to get a shawl exactly like this one, or you can use the recipe version. There are notes at the end of the pattern on how you can use the design as a recipe to essentially make it your own. And a few of my testers have done that, where they didn't necessarily have the right quantity of minis or the right weight of minis. So I used the Wonderland Yarn minis are 1 ounce mini skeins, so they're about 27-28 grams each. Mine were about 25 grams each. But I had quite a bit left over, so I've estimated that you're going to need about 20 gram mini skeins, 5 20 gram mini skeins to be able to get the shawl exactly the way this is. But if you don't have exactly 5 20 gram mini skeins, you could use 10 gram mini skeins, or you could even use more mini skeins and have more of the coloured gradient section and have less of the lace. And like I said, the pattern explains how you can do that. You can mix up the order of things. It's super flexible, and like I said, some of my sorry, background noise today are the snowplows. No sirens, just snowplows. But yes, like I said, some of my testers have mixed it up a bit. I know one of my testers had a gradient set or a mini skein set that had 6 mini skeins in it rather than 5, so she sort of adapted to use all 6 colours and stuff like that. So definitely a very adaptable pattern. And there's also sort of like a checklist for each section and your stitch counts and stuff like that at the end of the pattern, so you can easily keep track of where you are. At least that's the theory, and it seems to have worked for most of the testers as well, so that's great. That's the back. I'll show you the front again. And the lace is also pretty simple. Just there's a spot here that I can see on the camera there. I'm not entirely sure if that was is that a mistake there? No, I think it's alright. It just looks a bit funny on the camera. It just looks like a slightly larger hole, but it's not. And the lace is a pretty simple lace, but very effective sort of pattern. And yeah, and you know, if you don't like knitting lace, you don't have to do this bit at all. You can just use the texture section, which is a really fun knit. And the texture section is a garter based texture, so there's no purling in this section. The only section of the shawl that has any purling is the lace, which is a stockinette base lace pattern. But the rest of the pattern, rest of the shawl is all garter based, so it's knit every row. And so that's that. So that will be coming out next week at some point, hopefully. Then next up we have works in progress. I did not touch my pinwheel blanket whilst I was in hospital. I had intended to, but like I said, because I had the socks, the time I would have spent knitting on the pinwheel blanket ended up being spent knitting on those socks. Then I have a few other projects that I'm working on. Almost all of them are design projects. I have this, which is the chevron shawl design that I'm working on. I showed this to you in the last podcast as well, but I've done a bit more on it since then. I haven't actually worked on this since getting out of hospital, but this is where I am at. It's a bit scrunched up on the needles at the moment, but it's a really sort of simple texture. And this is actually my second version of this shawl. I knit the first version of the shawl back in when we were still in Bahrain, and it didn't quite work out how I'd wanted, so I've adjusted the pattern a little bit, and now we're getting this, which is working out much more how I imagined. And this is being knit on 4mm knit pro zings. Yeah, 4mm US size 6. The yarn I'm using is this alpaca yarn. I'll get the tag to show up, which I showed, sent to me by a lovely viewer, as this beautiful alpaca wool blend. And yeah, so I'm just plugging away on that. There's no real urgency on that shawl, so it's kind of taking a bit of a backseat at the moment, which is fine. I found that since getting out of hospital, I've become quite monogamous with my knitting. I tend to knit on just 1 or 2 things at a time at the moment. I don't have a lot of brain power for much else. The next design that I'm working on, which I don't think I've actually shown this on the podcast yet, but again, I haven't gotten very far with it, and I haven't actually knit on it since getting out of hospital either. So this is all progress I had from before I went into hospital, and this is being knit out of some fern fibre yarns. The grey is, they're both a sport weight yarn. It's Robin and Squeaky, which is they're 2 sheep, I believe, and they're both so it's 100% Romney sport weight. And the grey is natural, and the green coloured yarn is dyed with goldenrod and indigo, which is really, really fun. And the indigo part of the dye actually rubs off a bit on your hands when you're knitting with it, which is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. Maria of the Ninja Chickens podcast, who is the dyer behind Fern Fibre, or one of the dyers behind Fern Fibre, she told me that that was perfectly normal, and that happens with indigo dyed yarns. They tend to rub off a little bit when you knit with them. So it's funny because I'm knitting with a green yarn and then my hands end up looking blue, but it's just the indigo that's rubbing off, not the goldenrod, which is yellow. And this is how this one is turning out so far. So it's like stockinette either side with lace panel down the middle. Don't know how well you can see that lace right now, it's a bit scrunched up. Silly needles. But anyway, you get the gist. And this is being knit on 4mm high sharps. So US 6s again. Sorry, my voice is a bit hoarse today. I've been feeling like I'm coming down with a sore throat for the last few days. It's just, nothing's happened. I just end up sounding like this. So that's another project that I'm slowly working on. So those 2 shawls are kind of on the back burner at the moment. This one I'm hoping to have out by sort of late spring, early summer. And the other one, not particularly urgent at the moment. My last shawl, I've got 3 shawls on the go, but this is the one I've been working on the most. I actually started this the day before I ended up going into hospital, and I've been working on it a lot since getting out of hospital as well. I'm not going to show you much detail because this is a design collaboration with the dyer, who I'll talk about in a second, and I'm not entirely sure what the situation is with regards to showing the design before it's released. So this is all I'm going to show you, just a crumpled up mess. And the yarn is by the lovely Kelsey, who's the dyer behind Primrose Yarn Company. She got in touch with me to see if I'd be interested in working on a collaboration with her. So she sent me some lovely yarn, and this is, she sent me 2 skeins each. I showed these on the podcast, I believe, of her Jasper DK base. And the cream colour is her Snow Owl colourway, so it's actually a lightly speckled. No, she's fine. It's sort of a cream base with lightly speckled bits of like darker browns in there. It's a really, really lovely colourway. And her curry spice, or spice curry, which is this beautiful autumnal orange colour. Focus, there we go. Really, really beautiful yarns, and I've already gone through 1 skein each of them. I'm on the 2nd skein for both. And yes, like I said, this is a collaboration which will be coming out. Sorry, what's going on with the monitor? Okay. and this will be coming out later this year, probably around autumn time. And the reason why I'm working on that one more now is because it is a DK weight shawl, and as the weather gets warmer, which at the moment I don't know when it will because it's snowing outside, but when the weather gets warmer, I'm going to be less inclined to want to knit on that shawl, that heavier shawl, than the other two. So I'm wanting to get that one off the needles, and it's almost done, almost there, very, very close to being finished. Probably just, I mean, at the rate that I'm knitting at the moment, probably will take me the rest of this week to finish it. But that's fine. And my last work in progress in my rainbow unicorn bag is a pair of socks. Surprise, surprise. So this is a fun pair of rainbow socks. I cast these on a couple of days ago. Perry and I ended up taking an evening and going out to see a film on Sunday night. We went to see Logan, which wasn't a terrible film, but I don't know. I think there were a few things left unanswered, which could have been answered or could have been dealt with better, I think. But generally quite like the film. And I knit on these. I had the cuffs started when we got to the cinema, and I knit most of the leg. I just finished off the leg yesterday. I think it was the last repeat that I had to do to get to where I am now, and I'm now ready to pop in some heels. So I think I've got a nice neutral grey, which I'm going to pop in for the heels on these socks. And the yarn for this is, if I can find the tag, it's Artistic Yarn by Abby on Etsy. If this will focus, there we go. And it's in her Rainbows and Clouds colorway, self-striping. And yeah, so it's 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon, 460 yards and 100 grams. This is one of the earliest skeins of self-striping sock yarn that I ever bought. So back when I was still living in Dubai. So that was really special, and I thought it'd be quite fun to knit some really old stash as well as new stuff. So this is on the needles now. I will probably try and pop in the heels on these later today, and then save them for maybe another trip to the cinema or whenever I need more plain knitting, because that's the only vanilla project on my needles at the moment. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and then I'll be back with acquisitions. It's quite warm in here today because I've got the windows closed and the heating is on. Not that I've turned it on, it's just on. So apologies if I'm just sat here fanning myself. Okay, moving on to acquisitions. First things first, I was, if you remember back on the last podcast or the podcast before, I did a giveaway for some crochet classes by the lovely Claire. They were offered by the lovely Claire, who is the owner of Beautiful Things online shop. And she offered to send me one of their kits as well. So she sent me the crochet amigurumi cactus kits. So this is everything that got sent in the kit for me. It's all the yarns that you'll need, the stuffing that you'll need, a little card with the different stitches described on there as well. And there's also a code to download or to access the online course on how to knit them. And also came with this lovely, generously sized tote bag, which is very, very handy. So yeah, so thank you to Claire, thank you so much. And already all the winners for those have been contacted and prizes will have been sent out already. So hopefully you'll be getting yours soon if you are one. I haven't had a chance to try this out yet, but I am looking forward to giving that a go. A couple of little crocheted cactuses for the, or cacti for the apartment. We don't generally keep a lot of fresh plants around because Hugo tries to eat them. So yeah, for that reason we don't have a lot of greenery in our house at the moment. Any that we do have live on high shelves and don't come down. So maybe some artificial cacti will go some way to brightening up the place. Then next up, there was a really sweet package sent to me by the lovely Cindy of Mon Sheep Shop, and she sent me some gorgeous yarns. So these were the 3 skeins that she sent me, and the names are actually written on the inside of the tags, so I've got them written down here if I can remember. Let me just find that. There we go. So this one, which I believe from looking at it looks to be like a self-striping, and it's on a stellina base. This one is called, where is it? Red Breast, which I think is like is in reference to like a robin, like the bird. And so that's really beautiful. I'm looking forward to see how that would knit up. This one, I believe it's this one, is a Gilmore Girls reference. It's called Dinner with Paul. Or Diner, is it Dinner or Diner with Paul? Yeah, Diner with Paul. And it's from her Winter Gilmore Girls collection. Get that to focus on the yarn. And it's really fun. I love this sort of speckled section here. And that's really fun. I think this is on her sock base. Again, sorry, the information's all on the inside. Yeah, so it's 75/25 merino nylon. And the last one that she sent me is this one, and it's, I translated it because my French is not that great, but it's called Stained Glass. I believe, if I got the translation right. This one was called Stained Glass, and it is on her MCS base, so it's a merino cashmere silk base, which is really lovely and soft and squishy. And as well as that, she sent me a beautiful, cute little spring notebook. If it will focus, there we go. And this really fun, brightly coloured, springy project bag. I really like the fabric as well. It's like a nice sort of thick canvasy fabric. And she didn't say specifically that one of these were for a giveaway or anything, but I think I'm going to use one for a giveaway to kind of spread the love a little bit as well in the future. I haven't decided which one or for which giveaway, but one will be for a giveaway at some point. And there we go. So that was from the lovely Cindy. And I'll have all these shops linked in the show notes as well, so you can check them out. Then the next package came to me from the lovely Kayleen, who is the dyer behind Little Bean Loves Yarn. I think it's Little Bean, yeah, Little Bean Loves. And she also has a podcast, Little Bean and Me, I believe is her podcast. So make sure you check her out. She's so sweet, and she does really detailed segments on things that she's learnt while dyeing, and she talks about like dye mistakes and how, you know, you fix them and what sort of things might cause certain things to happen and stuff like that, which I've actually found really interesting, considering I'm not a dyer myself. But it's interesting to like learn about different things and different processes, about how, you know, your yarn ends up being the way it is. I think on her last podcast she talked about how you could accidentally kill the stellina in a stellina yarn, which I thought was quite interesting as well to hear about. So make sure you check her out if you're interested in that sort of thing. But she also sent me some lovely yarn to both play with and to give away. And so she sent me these 3 gorgeous skeins. She sent me 2 skeins of her, she does a lot of Harry Potter themed yarns as well, so if you're into Harry Potter and you're into that sort of thing, definitely check out her shop. Almost all of her yarns are Harry Potter themed. Words today. So she sent me 2 skeins of her Mooney colourway, and this one is on her everyday sock and this one's on her sparkle sock. And you see how lovely these colours are, and I'm sure you're not too surprised about why I ended up picking this colourway. I'll probably end up using the sparkle one for a giveaway because I know you guys all love your sparkle, and I'll probably end up keeping the everyday sock for myself, or maybe the other way around, who knows. But she also sent me this lovely skein. This is her worsted merino base, 100% superwash merino, 218 yards in 100 grams, and this is in the Slytherin Common Room colourway, which I really love. It's kind of got that swampy green sort of look to it, which is really, really fun. And I believe her inspiration for this was the fact that the Slytherin Common Room is meant to be underneath the Great Lake, so it's supposed to have that sort of green swampy vibe, I guess, which I think she captured perfectly in this colourway. So I'm looking forward. I think I have the perfect idea for a pattern for this one, so I'm looking forward to getting that knit up at some point. So yeah, more lovely yarn. So thank you so much for that, Kayleen. And like I said, if you haven't checked out her podcast, definitely do. Then sorry, I've got like I said, a bit of a sore throat coming on. Then I was contacted recently by Sherry, who owns the Daisy Girl & Co Etsy shop. That's her card, and this is all of the info on the back. Like I said, I'll have the Etsy shop linked in the show notes. And she wanted to send me a couple of project bags, one for me and one to give away. And I've never had a project bag like this, so this was really exciting for me to try out. But she sent me these two. They're sort of her sock size, or I guess a single or two skein project size. I definitely think you could get like a 2 skein shawl into one of these. They're pretty decently sized bags. Yeah, and so they're solid on the back, and on the front they've got a clear panel. They're very sturdy as well. Got pretty stiff, firm interfacing on them as well. Really beautifully stitched, nicely finished. And yeah, so I think this one will be for the giveaway with the yarn balls and needles, and I will probably keep the one with the bicycles for myself because I don't have anything like this in my project bags, and I definitely don't have anything with a clear panel on it, so that was really fun. I'm looking forward to trying that out. So yeah, so this will be for an upcoming giveaway. And thank you so much to Sherry for those. I'm looking forward to trying that out. And yeah, like I said, if you're looking for an interesting or something slightly different sort of project bag with a panel so you can see your projects inside it and stuff, then definitely check out her shop. I was sent a really sweet package from the lovely Sam, who is Lavender Loon, or who has the Lavender Loon yarn company on Etsy. Sam and I have been chatting for quite a while now on Instagram and online, and she's tested it for me a couple of times, and we've just been chatting back and forth. I kind of consider her a friend. I hope she does as well. Otherwise that sounds kind of creepy. But anyway, so when we were having Layla, she wanted to send us a little package, and she sent some really sweet goodies and stuff, but included in that, she's just started dyeing yarn again. She was dyeing yarn a while ago, and then she took a bit of a break, and now she's sort of come back at it full force. And she sent me one of her mini skein sets, and this is her Call the Midwife mini skein set. And I have to admit, I haven't actually watched that TV show, but it's on my list of ones I would like to check out. I'm not taking it out of the plastic, but you can see that there. I'm not sure what the order of these are, but the colorway names are Nonatus House, Midwives in Africa, Sister Julienne, Trixie, Patsy, and Nurse Barbara. So if you watch the show, you may be able to recognize what the colorways are, but I have no idea. But it's really fun to see the colorways, and I think they're on a couple of different bases. So that's really fun. I'm looking forward to playing with those. And then another friend, a knitting friend, who I'm not sure if she wants to be named or not on the podcast, so I won't, but she also sent me a very sweet sort of care package type thing for when Layla was born. And one of the things she included in there was this little monogrammed pouch, which is really fun as like either a notions pouch or a small project pouch, and stuff like that. So that was really sweet, and I really appreciated that. So thank you so much. You know who you are. Like I said, I wasn't sure if you wanted to be named, so I'm leaving that out for now. And two more things. Well, the next one is a quick one, and then we have the big one to show you. I was contacted by the lovely Laura, who has the Row 1 yarn online shop, I guess, or company. And what she does is, many of you may have heard of the swapless swaps that are going around, or that some people are organising, where you basically pay a certain amount of money and you get 10 or 20 mini skeins from a specific indie dyer from a range of their colourways. And I know a lot of different podcasters have been organising these swapless swaps, and I think that's great, and they're a really fun way to get some mini skeins, try out new dyers, all for the price of about a skein of yarn, or just over a skein of yarn. You get to try out lots of different colourways from one dyer. Now what Laura is doing is she has she's come up with the same, she's doing the same sort of thing but as a subscription service. So if I just read what she's written here in her note, she says she came up with this idea because she loves the vibrant and artistic quality of hand-dyed yarns, and she wanted to be able to make these more accessible to people who love them as much as she does. She says, I also wanted to try to help out the indie dyers who work so hard to create these beauties. So much of this yarn is bought online and you really have no idea how it feels or the true colours until they arrive in your mailbox. And they can get really pricey for just one skein. So each month she features a different indie dyer and always includes 10 to 20 different colours. So that's 5 to 10 grams each to always equal 100 grams. Subscribers will get to try out a bunch of different colours from a different source each month, and if they like what's included they can order more directly from the dyer or local yarn store, as the case may be. And right now she's only offering fingering weight yarn. So the subscriptions are $35 per month with free US shipping, and there's an additional $15 per month charged for international orders. And she's also offering 20% off the first month using the promo code HELLO20, all capitals, and 20 is the number 20. So HELLO20 at checkout. So for little more than the cost of one skein, subscribers can experience 10 to 20 different colorways each month. So I think that's quite a fun way of doing it if you're into that sort of thing and you want to collect some mini skeins for swaps or to use in your blankets, scrap blankets and stuff like that, then that's really fun. She's actually offering one month's package as a prize on the podcast, which I will come to in a second. But she sent me one so I can show you guys what it looks like. So let me just open this up. I probably should have done this in advance. So you get so the package that she sent me, and they're all skeined up in mini skeins. So they're not actually in like the mini skeins, like, where did I put it? Like this. They're already wound up and ready to be knit from. So that's a certain level of convenience, I guess, if you wanted to get going with them straight away. And all the different colorways have the name written on the bands, so you know exactly what each one is. You're not sat there trying to figure out which is which. You also get an information leaflet, so a page with information from the dyer. So this month's, or this package, was from Lichen and Lace, which is actually a dyer I've been wanting to try out, so that was really exciting to get, and I didn't know that that was what it was going to be. It was a surprise. And this is on the 80/20 sock. It's perfect fingering weight with 365 yards in 100 grams, and it's a very soft yarn, perfect for socks, but also shawls, colourwork and baby knits. And there's a bit of information about the dyer, care instructions, and also all the colourways are listed out here. So there are 20 colourways in this package, so they're 5 grams each. So that's really fun. And like I said, I'm going to have a 1 month sort of subscription package as a giveaway coming up very soon. So actually keep an eye out, keep an ear out for that later this episode. And the last thing I have to show you today is actually going to take a while to show because there is a ton. And I'm not even showing you everything. But I was contacted by a very lovely viewer of the podcast from Turkey. Again, I'm not entirely sure if she wants to be named, so I'm not going to mention her name, but she very kindly offered to send me some Turkish yarns to try out and to play with. And I said okay. I wasn't expecting much. I thought maybe 1 or 2 skeins at most, but then what showed up was 2 boxes full, and I mean full. I couldn't, once I opened it, I couldn't get everything back in the box. That's how full it was. Of stuff, and not just yarn, but other treats and goodies and things to try out as well. So I'm just going to show you a handful, about half of what she sent me, really quickly. She sent me a whole host of sock yarns to try out, and some of which I will probably use for giveaways in the future as well, just to kind of, again, spread the love, as it were. But a couple I just wanted to show you really quickly was she sent me some standard sock yarn, so 75/25 superwash wool and polyamide. There's some bamboo sock yarn, which is 50% merino, 25% polyamide and 25% bamboo. There's these two, and there's like I said, a whole host of other colorways, and mostly in the 75/25 sort of merino nylon, or sorry, wool nylon blend style. There's this one, which is the only sock yarn that she sent, which is in a skein like this, and this is from Omapsara. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this right. Omapsara yarns. It's a 90 merino 10 nylon blend. I can get that to focus. There we go, you can see that there. This is beautiful sort of blues and greens and greys and oranges. This will make a really fun pair of socks. I can't tell if it's self-striping or variegated, but that'll be fun to see when it's knit up. She also sent a really special skein from, this is 50% yarn, 50% merino, 50% angora, and it is super soft and squishy, and it has a really fun halo to it. I think this would make a really nice hat. 100 grams, 250 meters, so this is a sport fingering weight yarn. She also sent me some merino silk blends. So none of these have colorway names or anything on them, but here we go. So these two are 75% merino, 25% silk, and these three are 50% merino, 50% silk. And I actually think they all go really quite nicely together like that. But yeah, really, really beautiful. And these are all about 380 or 350 meters per 100 grams. So again, a good sort of plump fingering slash thin sport weight sort of range. And I'm looking forward to figuring out what I'm going to do with those. But then she also sent me this selection of worsted weight yarns, and these are all, I believe, 100% merino. Yeah, 100% extra fine superwash merino in 205 meters per 100 grams. And this beautiful sort of autumnal colorway range. And these are so lovely. These are beautiful. And so the colorways are, so these were all organically hand dyed. I think they were naturally hand dyed as well, but I'm not sure what with. The colorways, I'm not sure if they're actually dyed with the items that they are named after, if the colorways that they're named after, if that makes sense. This one's called Black Grape, so I'm not sure if Black Grape is actually what was used to dye this, is what I'm getting at. This one is called Buckthorn. I don't know enough about natural dyeing to know if these are actually things that can be used as dyes. I'm pretty sure this wasn't dyed with pistachio, but it's called pistachio. It's really lovely sort of grassy green colour. And this one is called Fig. It's like a darker sort of khaki green kind. I just really love these colours together. And I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be yet, but it will be something. Super squishy. So thank you so much to the, you know who you are. Like I said, I didn't want to mention your name in case you didn't want it mentioned, but thank you so much for that. That was incredibly generous and kind of you. And yeah, so that's that for acquisitions this week. Like I said, it's been a month, and so there's a lot of stuff that had come in over this last month, and Hugo's back. So I know that seems like quite a lot, but it is a lot. And but yeah, like I said, it's been a while. Hey, okay. So moving on to knit alongs and giveaways. Now, if you are a long-time viewer of the podcast, or you have just been paying attention, you may realise that this week will be my Podiversary. My podcast anniversary is on the 16th of March, so just in a couple of days. And I had planned on just filming on my Podiversary, but due to some changes in plans and stuff, that's not going to happen. So I am doing it today, essentially. So I've decided to host or have a few giveaways for the podcast anniversary, and I thought I'd start by explaining what those are. So I have a few patterns in the bank that have been donated by designers that I have decided I'm just going to use for this for the podcast anniversary, because I feel like I don't want to hang on to them for too long. I kind of want to get them out there to you guys. The first one is the vulva scarf pattern by Debbie Reese of Periscoping Sisters. There is a lovely child's sweater, cabled owl sweater pattern by oh, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Udur on Ravelry. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well. And also Jen, who's Boston Jen from the Downseller Studio podcast, has donated the latest copy of her shawl, a copy of her latest shawl pattern, which is the World of Difference shawl as well, to the podcast. So I'm going to have a thread for those 3 patterns as a giveaway, and all you'll have to do is just tell me which pattern you are interested in knitting, and then I will draw 3 winners, hopefully 1 for each pattern, and hopefully then you'll be entered to win for the pattern that you're interested in, if that makes sense. In addition to that, I have a couple of prize packages to give away. One is going to be a 1-month subscription to the Row 1 Yarns mini skein bundle subscription, and Laura of Row 1 Yarns has kindly offered to send that directly to the winner. It won't be the same, it won't be Lichen and Lace, it'll be whichever one is the current month's indie dyer for the subscription for the month that you win. So once I announce the winner, I will put you in touch with Laura, and then you can exchange addresses, or you can send her your address and stuff, and you'll sort it out that way. So that'll be one of the prizes. Another prize is going to be this little bundle, which I will quickly take out of the packaging because it's crinkly. So it is a skein of a Zagaball in this sort of like blues and greens and blacks sort of colourway. I don't know if there's a name on here. Bleschle? I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that. It's German obviously, but there it is, right there above where it says 420 meters. I'm not entirely sure what that says, but there is that. Then there is one of my sock size project bags. There is a progress keeper. There is a half skein, it's a 50-gram skein of the R2D2 colourway from Mustache Yarns, and a coordinating blue 50-gram skein from Wildfoot Yarns to use. If you use this for cuffs, heels and toes, more than likely you'll have enough here for a pair of socks. Even if it's just a pair of short socks, you'll be able to get a pair of socks out of that. I mean, a pair of socks for me generally takes around 60 to 80 grams of yarn, and I do quite a long leg on my socks, so, and I have quite large feet. I have like a US size 10 feet, so, and I typically use about 20-ish grams for coordinating cuffs, heels and toes if I do all 3. So 20 plus 50 grams, 70 grams, you'll definitely have enough for a pair of socks, is what I'm getting at. Out of that, I mean, if I can get a pair of socks out of that, for me, most people will be able to get a pair of socks themselves. So that's one prize package that I'll be sending out, and the other one, I probably won't take this out, but it's 2 skeins of Primrose Yarn Company on her Adelaide base. One is in the Blueberry Jazz colourway, and the other one, I believe, is Radioactive Lemonade. Maybe I will take it out then. Yeah, Radioactive Pink Lemonade. Being blown out quite a bit. Okay, it's a bit better. And a nice large project bag as well to go with that. So that's the other prize package. That's later. So those are going to be the prize packages for the Podiversary. I will have another thread for these 2 packages and the Row 1 Yarns sort of subscription prize as well, and there'll be a prompt in there for you guys to answer. I'm not entirely sure what that'll be yet, but it will be in the thread in the group, so make sure you pop on over there to enter that. Then we have the Knitting Expat Designs year-long knit-along, and at the end of March I will be drawing for prizes for the first round of that. Monique of Frog Peak Creations has donated a project bag from her shop, which she will be sending directly to a winner, and then you will just have the option to pick from what she has available. Then Brooke of Fully Spun Yarn will be sending a skein of yarn from her shop to a winner as well. I believe she's actually sending a skein of yarn to me, so I will show that on the podcast when it gets here, and I will send that out to the winner. Then we have two other little bundles together. One is this project bag, yarn and stitch markers from Crypt Yarn Handmade, and I shared this on the podcast back in December when it arrived. And then the other prize package I have is this sort of orange kitty cat drawstring project bag, this skein of bulky yarn from O Loops it's a Harry Potter colourway. I think it was called Haunted Hogwarts. And there's also some stitch markers in there as well for the winner. So those will be two separate prize packages. I've just got them together in this for now. And so those I will send out as well. And so those will be prize packages for the first month, for the end of March. Then we have the Sock Pattern Club, which is going on, and that's the New York Sock Collection, which is a sock pattern club where I'm releasing a new sock pattern every month as part of the ebook. The patterns are exclusive to club members until the end of November, and then at the end of November they'll be released for individual purchase. There'll be a new pattern released each month until September. And September is the last month, but then the knit along is going to go on until the end of the year. So you guys have a little bit of extra time to finish up any socks in case if you aren't able to keep up with one a month. So at the end of March, I'm going to draw for prizes from the monthly FOs thread, and I will draw for prizes each month up to the end of the month. So the last post on the 31st of March will be the cut-off point. I'm not going to close the thread and open a new one each month. It's going to be the same thread. I'm just going to draw from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. Whatever is entered in that month will be eligible for prizes. You don't have to have knit only that month's sock to be eligible for that month. So for example, say you started the March socks but you didn't finish them until April, and you enter them into the FO thread, the monthly FO thread in April, they'll be eligible in the month of April for prizes. I hope that makes sense. So for example, if you start and finish your March socks, or you don't finish your March socks until September, you can still enter them in the September thread, in the FO thread, and be eligible for September. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the prizes for this first month is going to be, there'll be 3 prizes, one pattern prize and 2 physical prizes. So the pattern prize is going to be the Be My Valentine socks from the Cozy Knitter. She donated a copy to the podcast, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get them out whilst it was still Valentine's Day, or around Valentine's Day. But one of the physical prizes I'm going to get out in time for this. So the yarn that I used from the Cozy Knitter, which is this one, the New Horizons on her Bliss base, this one is going to be the pattern for May. The 3rd pattern that's going to be released will be out of this yarn, and so I want to get this out as the prize for the end of March, because then it gives me the whole month of April to get this to you. So you have it in time if you decide you want to knit your May socks out of the same yarn that I did for the prize winner. And so the prize is going to be the skein of sock yarn from the Cozy Knitter with the contrasting yarn for heels, toes and cuffs, and also a tote bag from I Knit Fandango in London. So that's one prize. And then the second prize is going to be from Yoshi and Lucy Knits, which is a yarn company by the lovely Denise, who also has the Yoshi and Lucy Knits podcast. And this is a skein on her Isabel base in the Nebula colourway, and this is her 75/25 superwash merino nylon sock yarn, 463 yards and 100 grams, and thought it appropriate to pair it with a kitty themed project bag, since Denise has 2 cats and her label has 2 cats on it. So I thought that was fairly appropriate pairing right there. So that's going to be the second prize, or physical prize. So that's that. I think that covers all the prizes that I had to show you this week. So again, sorry that took a while, but I had this is all backed up for quite a bit, and I had meant to show this to you sooner. Anyway, I will move on now to the questions and answers section. I don't have too many questions to answer this week. One question came from Crazy Penny Girl, and she says, can you explain how you weave in your ends when finishing socks? I've been using the technique demonstrated by Stacey of Very Pink Knits, but I tend to get little raised ridges on the right side of my socks, and I'm not very fond of the look or feel. Is there a better way? Let me see if I can show you how I do weave in my ends. So at the top, at the cuff, you can sort of just see the end poking out there. Where is it? There, you can see the end poking out there. I kind of just wrap the yarn around through these knit stitches on the wrong side of the cuff, and I tend to go down and then up, so just wrapping around the knit stitches on the wrong side, and that tends to keep them pretty well hidden at that point. But for, say, the toes, I kind of just weave it in and out wherever I can, or however I can, as neatly as I can, and you can still sort of see it there. So you can see those lines where the yarn's just gone up and down, up and down. And usually when I weave in the ends, I actually trim the yarn and I leave about a centimetre, half an inch, a centimetre of tail out, because it's on the inside, no one's going to see it. But also after I've washed it, then it tends to kind of just go back in, so that tail end's not poking out as much, because it's kind of just, you know, it's giving that little bit of extra slack for the yarn to move around a bit once it's been washed. So that's really how I do it. I don't do anything fancy, I don't do anything special. I just try and do it as neatly as I can. There's no special trick or technique that I specifically follow. Sometimes I will follow the line of stitches and sort of do like a duplicate stitch on the wrong side to weave in my ends if I'm really bothered, but most of the time it's just I weave it in up and down as best I can, so it's not visible from the right side. So I hope that answers your question. I'm really sorry if it doesn't. I don't have anything profound to offer with that one. The next question is from SL Hargis, I think, and she says, do you have any suggestions on cotton blend sock yarn? It is very hot here in the summer and I am wanting to try to make some socks that could be worn during warmer months. And she says, also I found a cardigan pattern that I have never knit, and I have never knit a cardigan or sweater before, so I'm wondering about a good DK weight yarn to use. Thanks. Okay, so in terms of cotton blend sock yarn, honestly I've never knit with any cotton blend sock yarn, so I can't really say what would be a good one or not a good one. I believe like Opal or Regia, or both maybe, offer a cotton blend sock yarn, which I imagine would be pretty good because their sock yarn is generally pretty good. But I don't actually know, like I said, because I've never knit with any cotton blend sock yarns myself, I don't really have any suggestions in that regard. So if you have any suggestions, if you're a viewer and you've knit with cotton blend sock yarns and you have any recommendations, please let us know in the episode thread, because I'd be interested to find out as well. And as for your second question about a good DK weight yarn to use, I'm assuming you're not going to want to spend a ton of money on indie dyed yarn if it's your first sweater or something. So in terms of affordability, and I don't know where you are based, your profile doesn't actually say where you are, so I don't know if this is going to be accessible for you or not, but Knit Picks yarn is generally pretty affordable, pretty good quality, and a pretty good value for money, and they often have sales and stuff as well, so you can always try out one of their DK weight yarns. Another one that you could potentially try is Cascade 220, even though it's technically classed as a worsted weight. I believe it can also be knit at a DK weight gauge, and also it's quite a thin worsted weight, so it's probably more accurate as a DK. But again, it's a pretty affordable yarn, pretty easily accessible, and again, depending where you are, like I said, I don't know where you're based, so I'm hoping that these suggestions aren't beyond reach for you. Another one to try out if you're in Europe specifically, I know this is easily accessible there, is Drops yarn. Drops is a very affordable yarn, very good quality, and again, quite easily accessible in Europe. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. So I hope that helps, and I believe all three of those have a DK weight option for you. In terms of affordable, value for money, good quality yarn. Those are the 3 I would probably suggest. If anyone else has any other suggestions for a good DK weight yarn for a sweater quantity that doesn't break the bank, then please let me know. I'd be interested to find out as well, because those are the only 3 I can think of off the top of my head. But if there are any others, please let me know. And I think that covers it for Q&A. I don't have any questions for you guys this week. It's been a long month since I last spoke to you. So a bit of a week in review. I don't think I mentioned this on the Meet Layla podcast episode, or the little episode I did with Layla. It's quite funny because I was so unprepared for that video. There were so many other things that I wanted to talk about, but I just forgot, and I kind of just decided on the spur of the moment to do that video. So anyway, I actually ended up, I had a doctor's appointment the day before my due date, and as it happened, I had quite high blood pressure that day, and my doctor, when she did a scan, she couldn't really get a good read on the fluid around the baby, the amniotic fluid around the baby. So she sent us to the hospital to get checked out, and just to like have everything double checked to make sure there was no issues. She didn't say anything at the time. She just said, just want to make sure everything's okay. So we ended up going to the hospital, spent a couple of hours there, got checked out. Everything turned out to be fine. Everything came back normal. All the tests they ran were normal. They kept me there, monitored me for a while, and everything seemed okay. And so they sent us home. And it was the longest weekend of my life. Honestly, we were so ready to be done. We were so ready for the baby to get here. We were as prepared as we were ever going to be. We literally had nothing left to do. I spent 4 days knitting, and Perry spent 4 days playing his video games. We literally did not have anything left to do. We were just waiting for this baby. And then Monday night, I had what I thought was going to be the start of labour. I had some pretty strong contractions. They were pretty frequent, or what I thought were contractions, and they were pretty frequent, but after about 3-4 hours they kind of went away, so nothing happened there. And then on Tuesday I had an appointment at the hospital. This was just a general checkup because I was overdue, and I had an ultrasound booked, and just again to monitor the baby and stuff and make sure everything's okay. The monitoring went fine, and then they sent me down for the ultrasound, and at that point again they couldn't find any fluid around the baby. They couldn't get a good read on it. And the fluid, I don't fully understand how it works, but basically they measure the quantity of fluid around the baby, and it has to be above a certain number for it to be classified as being okay. And they couldn't get anything. They couldn't find any sort of pocket of fluid to like get a measure on it at all. So 3 different doctors / technicians came and checked the ultrasound, and they were trying to figure out whether or not it was okay to let me go another couple of days or whatever. And I was just like, I am so ready to be done. I just want this baby out now. Like, this is, well, I'm over this. I'm over this whole being pregnant thing. And so they decided, they were like, okay, you can be done. Like, you can be done now. We'll send you up to get to go in and get induced. So yeah, like I said, because they couldn't find any fluid around the baby, they decided it was too risky to leave it, and so I had to be induced. It took a few hours before they actually got around to it, but it was fine. I actually got seen by my own doctor. Initially she was on duty at the hospital at that time as it happened, so I got to see her first, and then I actually went through 2 other doctors during the course of the time that I was there. And so I knit through the first part of the labour after I was induced for about the first half of it. I was in labour for about 20.5 hours from when they started the induction to when Layla was born. And for the most part it was fine. The pain got pretty intense pretty quickly, like over that first half of the labour. You may or may not know, but if you've been induced, then the labour pains become much more intense much more quickly than if you go into labour naturally, because it's chemically induced. And I had to be monitored the whole time, so I didn't have the flexibility to be able to move around as much as I would have done if I'd gone into labour naturally. I wouldn't have been able to, you know, at the point where I was in unbearable pain, I was only like barely dilated. I was like 2 centimeters. It was very minimal. And at the point that, you know, if I'd shown up at hospital at that point, they probably would have sent me home. But anyway, I ended up getting an epidural because it was just so painful, and it was the best decision I ever made. It was hands down the worst part of the whole labour and delivery process was getting the epidural. Poor Perry had to sit there, try and calm me down while I was literally screaming bloody murder. It was the most painful thing I have ever done in my life. And I've had an epidural before for surgery, which is slightly different than the one you get for labour. But this was the worst experience, the worst part of the whole thing. I would do it again because it was so much better afterwards. But at the time, it was the worst experience. And it is still, in my mind, the worst part of the whole thing. But after the epidural, it was amazing. I slept for 5 hours. I slept through like a quarter of my labour, basically. I actually sent Perry home to get some sleep because there was no point in him sitting in the hospital chair while I was sleeping. And he got to go home, feed the boys, get a couple of hours sleep in our bed, and then he came back. And yeah, and I think because I was more relaxed from not being in pain, things progressed a lot quicker after that point as well. And yeah, by the time I was ready to push, I ended up having to wait an hour because my doctor was busy with another delivery. And yeah, and then by the time it took very little pushing to get her out at that point. It was very quick. I think it was like less than 10 contractions worth of pushing to get her out. And even then it took a while, only because the contractions were so spaced out by that point for some reason. So we were just sat there waiting for the next one. But it was fine. It was completely painless in that regards. And like I said, the epidural was probably the best decision I made. I probably wouldn't have progressed as quickly as if I hadn't taken it, just from being in so much pain. But yeah, she was born, she was healthy, everything was good. I'm trying to think what else was there. But yeah, it was all fine. And then by the time that we'd finished up in the delivery room and they'd gotten us all sorted to move up to the room where I was going to be staying, my mum was on her way. And she got to the hospital literally 5 minutes after we moved into our room, and which is all in all I think about 3 hours after Layla was born. My mum got there, so she got to see her pretty much straight away. It was quite funny because my mum was the first person to meet Layla and the last person to find out about her being born. She was on a plane when it all happened. Her flight landed 15 minutes after Layla was born, so all of our families knew that Layla had been born, but my mum had no idea. Until we got to talk to her. And then so yeah, so that was good. And yeah, things have been fine since we got home. The boys have got on with her great. They pretty much leave her alone. They don't bother her, they don't go up to her. They're getting very good at tolerating her screaming now, or her cries. I guess they're not really screaming, but when she cries, they are a lot more tolerant of it, to a point. I think it gets to there's a certain point where her cries change pitch or change in intensity or something, where Derek is just like, okay, no, I've had enough now, I'm gonna get up and I'm leaving the room, or whatever it is. But Hugo's pretty tolerant of it. Like, he'll still sleep through most of the crying at night on our bed. But yeah, she's doing good. She's putting on weight like a trooper. She's doing really good with that in that regards. And yeah, we've been out quite a bit with Layla as well, actually. Not so much this last week because the weather's been really crap, but in the first couple of weeks we were out quite a lot for doctor's appointments and just trying to get out of the house and stuff. But mostly just been trying to take it easy as much as possible. I've also been using, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know this, but I've also been using the 1 Second Everyday app. It's an app you can download. It is a paid for application, but I definitely think it's worth it. It's so you take like little video clips every day, and you put together 1 second of each clip every day, and so you end up with like a montage at the end of the year or end of the month or end of the week or whatever time period you want to do. So I've been doing one since the beginning of this year, and then I also started a second one in tandem from when Layla was born. So it'll be for the first year of her life, and then over the course of the year, every day I'll take a little video clip of her and put it into the application, and the application does a lot of the work for you, so you just have to remember to take a video. And then yeah, and then you can watch it all together and see how much she's changed over time and things like that. And I just think it's a really fun thing to do. It was something I'd wanted to do last year, I just never got around to it. But I'm really enjoying that now, and I've noticed a few other people have started using it on Instagram as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check that out. Just trying to see what else there was. So Perry started his new job finally last week, so that was really, I wouldn't say exciting, but not so much exciting, it's just a relief that he's finally able to get to work now. And yeah, it's been tough for him to not be here with Layla and stuff, but it's been good as well for him to get out of the house and have that sort of and to be back at work and start having a routine again and things like that. We had family come into town visit. I have a cousin who lives up in Boston with his family, and again, if you remember a couple of years ago when we came to the US, I went up and visited them for a few days. So they were in New York a couple of weekends ago, and they came over to visit us for a few hours and get to meet Layla, and then we had some friends over the other day. But all in all, been trying to take it easy as much as possible, trying to rest as much as possible. She's still sleeping, which is great. And yeah, like I said, Perry and I had our first sort of, I guess, date night out the other night on Sunday. I was feeling good and thought we may as well get out while we can, whilst my mum's here to watch Layla. We could go out for a couple of hours, so we did. We went out and saw a film. And otherwise, yeah, she's a pretty good baby, to be honest. She's very good. She eats well. She's pretty alert. She's pretty strong. She's got pretty good neck control for such a tiny baby. And she loves tummy time, which is great. She doesn't cry when she's on her belly. And yeah, I've just been trying to take loads of photos and videos of her and trying to remember her. Like, oh, don't know if you heard that. She's crying, so I'm just go check on her really quickly. Someone woke up. Say hi. Hello. Hello. Yeah, so like I was saying, she sleeps pretty well once she's actually asleep. She's eating pretty well. Sometimes getting her to sleep is a bit of a challenge, but yeah. You got milk all around your mouth. You got a milk crusted mouth. Right, so she probably needs a nappy changed, and I think that's pretty much the end of this episode. So thank you so much for joining me this week. Hopefully I'll be back soon. I'm not sure if I'll be back next week, but I'll be back at some point. And all of the giveaway threads and stuff will be, for the Podiversary, will be open until the end of the month. And all the other prizes will be drawn at the end of the month. Hopefully I'll be able to do a podcast shortly after to announce the prize winners. If not, I will try and just do a quick prize winner video and get that out so you guys can find out who's won as soon as possible. And yeah, so with that, thank you so much for joining me today. Take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye. Bye.